Hi, welcome to week 2 of Dylan Jenkins NFL predictions and highlights, and from last week as well. Enjoy the show. For this week, for the first game, I have the Bengals losing to the Browns, and I feel like this is a make or break game for Baker Mayfield. If you lose to a rookie quarterback at home, and he's made one start, and he said no preseason, no OTAs, has way less weapons, way less good of a defense, I think it proves that you're a bust. But you have one last chance. Giants and Bears. I have the Giants edging out the Bears this week. Daniel Jones going to have a good game. Sterling Shepard, 100 yards. And I think the Giants have an upset. Rams and Eagles. I have the Eagles winning 27-20, going to get back on track. They need to compete with Dallas. And they're going to be going 1-1 and being right up there in the division. I have the Cowboys beating Atlanta 30-24. Cowboys get their first win this season. Atlanta drops to 0-2. Expectations aren't too high with Atlanta, but they are with the Cowboys, as we've heard all off season that they might have 3 1,000-yard receivers. Buccaneers get on track this season and blow out the Panthers 38-17. Terrible defense. Panthers, no pass rush. Luke Kuechly's gone, and Tom Brady gets better chemistry with Mike Evans and company. Niners going to get back on track to their NFC winning ways, 35-13. You know, they have a way better all around. There's nothing that is better on the Jets than the 49ers. Not one thing. Between head coach, secondary, defense, anything. Wide receivers, maybe this week because we are banged up. But even then, I still think they're better. Obviously, tight end, no. Running backs, they're hurt. O-line, no. Quarterbacks, definitely no. Broncos and Steelers. I have the Steelers edging out the Broncos. They don't have a good O-line. The Broncos, they're going to get 5 field goals. You know, they're going to get close a lot of times, but that pass rush of the Steelers is way too much. It proved way too much for the Giants. Granted, they don't have a good O-line, but Saquon Barkley had 6 yards. Like, that's ridiculously low, and it's not his fault. He had nowhere to run all night, and I would be frustrated if I were Barkley. And I would be frustrated this week if I was Melvin Gordon. So, Jaguars and Titans. Titans win 27-24. I think Titans get another win. This could be a very close game, and I think Minshew is a little overhyped, but he's still solid. Packers play the Lions. Packers and Aaron Rodgers own their number. Lions are still rebuilding. Aaron Rodgers throws for another 3 touchdowns. You know, Bills and Dolphins. Dolphins still rebuilding. Bills, Josh Allen played great last week. I still am skeptical on him, but the Bills' defense is for real, and they have very good wideouts now. So, Bills 32-20. Vikings and Colts. This is one game I'm really on the fence on because both teams, I think, could very well win their divisions. But I think the Colts are a little more determined. They have a better O-line. They have about the same amount of wideouts. Quarterbacks are pretty the same, but they do have a really good defense. Adding DeForest Buckner from the Niners this year was huge for them. They have very good safety in Malik Hooker, very good Darius Leonard, and a much better pass rush. Not than the Vikings, just in general. Washington versus the Cardinals. This is one game on the fence on because Washington has a very good front seven. Cardinals don't have a very good O-line. Like, still, they improved it, but it's still bad. And they're very athletic up there, and maybe we'll be able to contain Kyler Murray. I think this is a flip-flop game, but I think I have the Cardinals going 2-0, 20-17 over the Washington. Ravens and Texans, I don't think this game is going to be close. Personnel is ridiculously different. Texans don't have a good defense. Their wideouts are going to be, this is one of the top 3 secondaries up there with the Patriots when they're healthy, and the 49ers, and the Chargers. And I think it's going to be like 35-17, maybe 35-24, late touchdown by Deshaun, but that's it. Patriots in Seattle, this game I'm on the fence on too. That's a rematch of the Super Bowl. I think Seattle could very well win 27-24, and I very well think the Pats can. Both have much improved defenses. Pats are already good. Seattle's definitely improved on defense, and Jamal Adams makes up for anything they do bad. But I don't think he's going to be their savior this week. And I think the Pats go win 27-24 on the road. No, they are at home. Saints and Raiders, I think this is a blowout. Raiders opening the stadium. The Raiders have a bad defense. They don't have the offensive weapons. Even with Michael Thomas out, Sean Payton's going to come up with creative ways to get Taysom Hill and Emmanuel Sanders involved, and Saints win this. Last week, I think the most impressive performance of the week by any player was Russell Wilson. He missed 3 passes, had 4 touchdowns. I watched that game personally. He was very accurate. He has a great supporting cast, but even if he didn't, I think he was lights out last week, putting up 38. Great week for Wilson. He was the player of the week. Great week. Most disappointing loss, I think, of the week has to be my 49ers. They were without 2 of their top weapons, so the Cardinals felt like they could one-on-one everyone except for Kittle, and then just double Kittle, and then all Jimmy was throwing to is these running backs. And Kittle left the game. He was banged up. He might be hurt this week. And, they did get Mohamed Sanu yesterday, or the day before. But, Mohamed Sanu is not any Julio Jones or anyone. But he's still a solid veteran receiver, so we'll see. Most impressive, I do think, is the Cardinals who beat the Niners. I looked down the list, and I don't think anyone was really more impressive, because the Cardinals have on the fence playoff hopes, and they came in, and even when they were down early 10-0, got a blocked punt, played good defense, harassed Jimmy G all day, and they won. They played very good. Kyler Murray ran for almost 100 yards. He was a little DeAndre Hopkins dependent. Granted, the Richard Sherman was on the other side, and he wasn't covering DeAndre all day, so he probably just shut down the other side. Most underrated, I think, right now are the Rams. You got probably the best defensive player in the league, arguably, in Aaron Donald, up there with Gilmore. But still, I think Donald's better. You got Jalen Ramsey, top 2 or 3 corner. And you did lose Littleton, but you still got some good players. I think Goff is one of the more underrated quarterbacks. He is definitely one of the best deep ball throwers in the NFL. He is very accurate, and he does it. Yeah, he just does his thing, and he did very good last week with Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods. And speaking of the next topic, there's a lot of talk about Odell might being traded. And here's my 5 teams I think should look into trading him. And the one team I've heard the most is Green Bay. Can you imagine Devontae Adams and Odell Beckham Jr. together? You have no more excuses if you're Aaron Rodgers. You got 2 top, definitely 11 receivers in the NFL. And everyone's going to focus more on Devontae, and you know how free Odell's going to be, because there's only teams that have 2 legitimate corners in this league. So, another team, I think, if you're the Niners, can you imagine George Kittle and Odell? Then you have Debo, and then you have Ayuk, who's another first-round talent, who then it takes a lot of pressure off him, because he's going to have to come in this week and be a number 1 without a preseason, without anything. I've been listening to a lot of talks that he's ahead of most rookies of where they are, but still, he's not just going to come in and be like a Michael Thomas. He's not going to be that right away. So he wouldn't have to. He only needs then maybe 600 yards, and people aren't going to consider him a bust. The other team, I think, is the Rams. That would take their offense over the top, because we don't know what Malcolm Brown is. So if you don't have a good running game, might as well have as best as you can on the offensive air attack. Vikings, maybe another team. Justin Jefferson. If you're the Vikings, you have to win now. You only really got Adam Thielen. He'd be a great compliment to him. And Justin Jefferson doesn't need to step in and be the biggest threat in the world, and he's still a really nice young player, and so he'll be a lot more free if people focus their attention on Odell and Adam Thielen. And then the last team I had is the Eagles. You got Jalen Reagor, who made a really nice catch last week, but they're severely hurt on the O-line, severely hurt wide receivers, as they are always, because last year Carson Wentz made it to the playoffs with shit wide receivers. And my highest chance, I think, for an upset of this week is Washington. They played very well, and they're going to play a lot more. They're going to be a lot more united because of their coach having cancer. And last week, Dwayne Haskins proves he can be a leader, which we never doubted that. He is a good leader. It was just of his playmaking ability, and he proved last week he can play. And I think, I don't think Washington is going to be any good, but it's just for this week. I think they have a good chance of upsetting. Also with the Jags over the Titans, maybe. And last but not least, I want to talk about Brady's performance last week. Everyone's harping on him. They threw 2 picks, and that is no better than Jameis. Well, he did have no preseason, and he did have no OTAs, and everyone's going to say it's Tom Brady. He's seen every defense, and he shouldn't have to. Well, even with the greats, it still takes time for chemistry. That one interception early was on Brady. If you listen to all the reports, it was on Brady. Mike Evans did the right thing. And then the second interception was awful. Like that, you can't deny that. That's an awful interception, and that pretty much puts you behind 17 of one of the NFC favorites. Like you're not going to come back from 17 then when you still have no chemistry. And Gronk didn't really play a factor. To be honest, he looked a little slow. I don't know. I'd maybe look in to see if try to have OJ Howard be the starter. Don't trade Gronk. He's a good maybe number 2, but he's nowhere near the level that Kelsey, Kittle, Ertz, and Andrews are right now. And it's ridiculous the hype that is on him just because he played with Brady. He did have an off year, so he's probably not as hurt, but he's not in football shape as much as the rest of everyone is. Even then, most people aren't because of OTAs. And they started later because of COVID. But yeah, thank you for coming to my segment. We'll see you next week.